and welcome. I look like a witch. It's great. This is supposed to be a video about my Halloween costume. It was supposed to be done on October 1st. Judging by the date now, it was not done on time. My name is Artemis. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to walk you through and show you the process of how I made my very first costume, Raven from Teen Titans. So for this, I used this McCall's pattern to trace the bodysuit. The original pattern had lots of different pieces within the bodysuit, lots of different segments. So what I needed to do was create a pattern for one continuous piece in the front and in the back. So I took all the pieces, I traced them out onto paper, cut them up, and then put them together to create the actual pattern that I used. It was not a perfect pattern, and you'll kind of see that later on, but it gave me a really good starting point. So here's all the pieces taped together to create the front and the back, the sleeves and the collar. Sleeves and collar were already one piece, but you can see the front and the back had multiple different segments within them. So the next step was actually sewing this jersey knit fabric, and it was a disaster. I tried a ton of different settings, tried different lengths, widths, different tensions, and I was consistently running into issues where the thread at the top would be getting stuck, it would pull, it would bunch, and it made the first half of this project very frustrating. I eventually kind of came to a place with the sewing machine where we were on good terms. Using that jersey needle, a smaller size, and then just like literally all the same settings that I had used for every other sewing project I've ever done, except just a very narrow zigzag stitch. That seemed to ultimately work the best. You know, I kept tension, a little bit of tension on the jersey fabric as I was going, and eventually, I was able to do it fairly successfully. But of course, it is never easy. And the next step was to attach them to the bodysuit. And then this happened. I sewed the arm to the head hole. And then, when I went to seam rip it to remove it and do it again, I started seam ripping the shoulder that was not connected to the arm at all. So I finally got it fixed, and then I started getting all the pieces of the bodysuit together. I added elastic around the base. I started shaping how I wanted the arms to look, so that create that shape that Raven has. I added the collar, and then it was October 1st, and I had finished the bodysuit. So it didn't meet my deadline, but learned a lot, made some good progress, and I continued on with the project. So the next piece that I worked on was the cape. I went to my local thrift store and I walked in and I immediately saw this beautiful purple fabric. It was both a fitted sheet and a flat sheet. It was perfect. It was exactly what I needed. So I sewed the cape. I ended up ripping up the corners of the fitted sheet to make sure that it could fit. It was a little tough to make it fit, but I ended up getting it. The bobbin winder on my sewing machine is broken, so I do have to add the thread to each bobbin by hand. The next piece I worked on was the hood. I struggled with this originally. I also knew that I was going to shape it to try to create that widow's peak that Raven's hood has, so I wanted to do a test fitting. And I did have to look up a tutorial on how to actually assemble the hood. It isn't ready as is once you sew the seams, but you have to fold it in on itself to get the correct hood shape. I also couldn't figure out how to actually shape the bottom of the cape. It was a very, very rounded shape, like the sides were much longer in this pattern. So what I ended up doing is just hanging it up. This Raven's cape is very flat around the edges, creates that very flat shape. So I hung it up and I just eyeballed it and hope I got it straight. So for the cape, my plan was to use these hook and eye to just hook it on, and that would be how I keep the cape closed. She does also have an accessory here to keep the cape closed. My original plan was to just sew on this and use this as the hook on the other side, but I realized once this is sewed on, there's no way that I can get this attached to it because of its size. So what ended up working out is I just hook these together, and then I can kind of take this, finagle it into place, and I've got the decorative clasp. And it was a last minute fix, but it was a last minute fix. It worked really well. So the next part of this project that I worked on was the wig. I was finishing this project up until October 29th. So I don't have as much video footage, but I got just a regular purple wig from Spirit Halloween. And then of course my dog loves cardboard. So here he is with the box that the wig came in. It's very important for me to get that kind of widow's peak that she has. So what I ended up doing is just kind of pulling some of the bangs down into the front here. And then I used Elmer's glue mixed with water, dripped that on, held it to shape, and then used a hair dryer to actually dry it. I did a bunch of layers. You can see it's not the prettiest, but that's what actually provided that widow's peak. I did the belt as individual pieces, and for each of those pieces I was originally going to do resin on top to try to get that reflective jewel-like sheen that the belt has, and it did not work at all. The resin was not setting. It had been a couple days at this point and it was still sticky. So I ended up having to scrap all of these, which was sad because I had worked hard on them. But in the end, I ended up using this translucent red film, and I think it created a much better effect. Alright, so in order to make these accessories, what I did was I used the foam sheet. So this is a piece that explicitly goes on her hand, on the back of the bodysuit, and so this one I wanted to be thin and small and flexible. By comparison, this is the belt. It's a bigger piece, it's much thicker because I wanted it to be much sturdier, so you can see the comparison between the two. So this is the base of the belt. This is the base of the hand accessory. You can see it's a much thinner, much more flexible foam. This is also what I used to actually make the belt itself, that thin foam. So everything got spray painted gold. And then what I did is I took the black, cut out the circle, and then attached that red film on top of it. So I ended up using some black craft foam, which had adhesive on the other side, which perfectly adhered to the red film. So I used the red film, stuck it on, cut it out to make it fit. So that is how I created these arm pieces, and the exact same process goes for this clasp, decorative clasp, as well as for the belt. And all the styrofoam is connected to itself via rubber cement. You can see here I do have seams. It's not one continuous piece. So I did line everything up to make sure that these seams would actually be hidden on the belt. And then for the belt, I just used Velcro as the adhesive. For the arm cuffs, it's simply a piece of fabric that I sewed together. There's interfacing on the inside here, and then they have clasps on them. I did make them a little big after making them too small. And just due to the time crunch, I did not cut off the excess. What you do is you just clasp it and move in. I've got the two arm cuffs. Alright, y'all. I did it! I made this costume. It still hasn't really dawned on me yet that I made this myself. Between the last minute stress of actually making the costume and like trying to get the video out as soon as possible, I'm still in that like creative fuck this project headspace. But I am really proud of it. There are a lot of smaller pieces that came together to create something really cool and really exciting, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. There's definitely things I would change. I definitely wish this was a little more pointy. I wish I had lined this up better, but I love it. I'm happy. I love the makeup that I chose to go with it. And in the most exciting news of all, so on Saturday, October 30th, I went to a party, a Halloween party as you do, and I won second place in the costume contest with this. And it absolutely hasn't sunk in at all yet. You know, they announced it at midnight and I was exhausted, so I was just like, okay. But yeah, it's my first costume. It's my first win. I am just excited and happy and ready to continue on this journey. Might be a little bit before I make another costume, but well, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Also, yes, I did lose one of these at the party, but considering I won second place, doesn't matter, I'm happy. I look fucking good in black lipstick. Like, this is a vibe. I I look amazing.